Okay, hello, this is Vampire back again with special guest Sensei Pedro.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Okay, so today we're gonna go easygoing, a different kind of talk. We're gonna be talking about pro wrestling. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
All right. So I didn't know that you were such a professional wrestling fan, and you and your brother, you guys watch a lot of this stuff.
yeah. Growing up, uh, I would watch a lot of back then WWF,
Nice.
and my favorite wrestler back in those days was Kane.
Kane. Whoa.
Kane, I always thought he looked so cool with the mask and uh, the whole get up, the whole like darkness thing, and the choke slam and the tombstone. It was just super cool, and what's it called? So I was always a huge fan of him, and I didn't watch a whole lot of lucha libre growing
Okay.
up,
Okay.
but I was mainly more into WWF growing up, and then
Yeah, and your background, you being Hispanic, right? So, lucha libre would be right in your culture right there, but you were
oh yeah,
definitely more the WWE kind of guy.
absolutely, absolutely, and
Nice. Yeah.
as I got older a little bit, I started looking into Japanese wrestling
Okay.
and New Japan Pro Wrestling and All Japan
Yeah.
and UWF.
This is you
And
or your brother first?
well, really, my brother first,
Okay.
and
Okay. Yeah.
then separately, I started looking into it. And I think as I've gotten older, I tend to prefer the Japanese style,
Okay.
um, because a lot of the Japanese style, going with Antonio Inoki and all them, it has a lot of like catch wrestling in it, the strong style,
Yeah.
and I love that.
Okay.
I have a huge admiration and respect for that.
We maybe okay, so catch wrestling, right? We got to
Mm,
go into that. So catch wrestling is originally comes from the UK,
right, right.
and in the US, by the time it came to the US, they were doing carnival wrestling, right? So they would travel around the US. This is what, the 1920s or before that?
I, maybe even a little bit, maybe the late 1800s, maybe
Oh,
1890s, early 1900s.
right. So
The
they were
old carny shows.
traveling around the US, and
Mm-hmm.
they would put on these shows, and they would do like wrestling, and on purpose, like the wrestlers, maybe they don't look that great, and they wrestle each other, and then they would ask someone in the audience, hey, if you could beat one of our guys, well, you'll get this cash prize. So then the big old farm boy is like, yeah, I could take him, and then he comes in, and then they use these catch wrestling moves, and they hook him up, and they destroy his limbs, and they take him out,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
So you
Put stockade, sugar hold, ankle locks, you name it. These dudes didn't know what hit them.
Right. I mean, yeah, they had no idea. And so it was just, you can't beat the house kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
So that's how it started, I think. And then from there, it turned into what we know today as professional wrestling, where the entertainment portion became a lot stronger, and they're drawing in huge audiences. And so, there was they would just wrestle each other, and they didn't need to destroy each other. So it kind of went the opposite direction from like professional boxing.
Right. You start seeing a shift in style. You know what I mean? You start seeing things going into the 70s and the 80s. You start seeing high flying moves,
Mm,
jumping off the top ropes, more big slams, a lot more striking, right? Like chops and big boots. And you start seeing a fading away of the mat wrestling skills, the shooting skills and the hooking skills.
yeah.
Some of it is still there in the submissions, but it's not so much mat based. It started going away from more entertainment.
And I think at the time, back then, like even like after those carnival years, when it started becoming televised and stuff, you would see guys like maybe get like a headlock and hold that for like 10 minutes, which is unthinkable today, right?
Yeah, I've heard this. I forgot who said it. It was a pro wrestler. He was doing a teaching seminar. He said that that was part of, they were calling the match in there.
Oh,
So they'd get a headlock, and they got like, all right, we're gonna work this, and hey, what's the next spot?
okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
where are we going next? You know what I mean?
Right, right. They're talking. Yeah.
That's cool. You know what I mean? Like that's a good way to disguise that.
Yes, yes, yes. And so one of the famous catch wrestlers, a catch wrestler is someone who has that skill that could destroy a person. So it's real. It's like martial arts skill. Like it's the
Yeah.
martial arts version of wrestling, right? And so all these moves, probably all of these moves are totally illegal in like amateur wrestling, Olympic wrestling, right? And so one of the guys, the famous guys, was a guy called Carl Gotch, and he lived in Florida. He was a professional wrestler. He was like rivals with like Luthes, right? And this dude, he was one of the top catch wrestlers, and for some reason, he taught a lot of Japanese professional wrestlers because they expanded their territories into Japanese professional wrestling. And so when the catch wrestling, as you said, kind of died out here in the US, or it became so scarce that it was almost like, barely gone, extinct. In Japan, you had a whole bunch of people that continued the tradition, and they had learned catch wrestling over there. And these are a lot of the main stars back in the 80s and stuff. Those guys like Antonio Inoki, Giant Baba, all those guys trained under Karl Gotch, Fujiwara, all those guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they say that's a tough breed right there. Those guys, I mean, their training was brutal. A lot of conditioning, a lot of getting stretched out.
Right. Right.
You ever done? I had a couple of catch wrestling lessons.
Wow.
And the fella, me and a buddy of mine, the fella, he was stretching us out, and I was bigger than bigger back then. It was probably good. It was probably like 280 something, 290, and this dude was small. He's probably like 200 pounds.
Okay.
Put me in the sugar hole, the stockade, and I'm just like, oh my god, dude, like tears almost coming out. Just all these like double wrist locks. I'm like, oh my god, dude, this is horrible.
Wow, you experienced that.
Just a little bit, only for like 2 lessons. I'm like,
that's crazy though. Yeah.
So I can only imagine what Antonio Inoki and Giant Baba and Fujiwara and those guys went through, man. Like,
and
they were put through the grinder.
The conditioning alone is like thousands of squats, thousands. I can't.
Push-ups and club swings and no. Those guys are a different breed. They're tough dudes.
Yeah. No, that is insane. And then of course one of the most famous was super successful in MMA, Sakuraba.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those. He follows that lineage from the UWF. I don't think he trained directly under Karl Gotch. Maybe Karl Gotch flew over to Japan and gave a session at the dojo, and Sakuraba was there. So maybe he's met him. I don't know, but yeah.
Here's one interesting thing I've heard about the catch wrestling in Japan. That I've heard that it's a little bit different from what you would see in Wigan,
okay,
in the UK, or even some of like the Farmer Burns stuff here from like US and Canada. That I've heard it said that the Japanese branch of catch has had influence of maybe like judo, newaza, ground technique a little bit.
Right.
I don't know how much of that is true, or to what degree. But I've heard that there's a little bit of an evolution. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Well, they do a lot of juji gatami, right? That's total judo.
right.
The arm bar, right? That we see in BJJ. Yeah, they do the juji gatami. So that's I bet that's the biggest influence. Maybe the rear naked choke, the hadakajime, right? But then the sambo part is all the footlocks.
Yeah.
Except for one, they said the toe hold Funaki Masakatsu, he said from the guy that started Pancrase. Now I got to see some of his interviews with Carl Gott, where he mentions Carl Gotch and the training that he did. So he was under the tutelage of Carl Gotch. In fact, the organization Pancrase was named after Carl Gotch. Gave it that name. He said, "Call it Pancrase." So he
Oh
named it.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, Funaki said that when he went to England, one of the moves that he saw them do was a toe hold in a shoot. Like maybe they had some dudes challenge the UK dojo, and when they did, they were like, "You Funaki and this guy, okay, you guys take care of this newcomer." So they did, and he noticed that the guy used the toe hold, and he was like, "Can you show me that move?" So then that's the one move he brought back to Japan, and then they started using it. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? The toe hold.
The the straight told here.
No, that's an ankle lock, and then you could go into a heel hook or a heel hold, and then they get out of that. You go into a toe hold, and then knee
Oh,
bar.
kind of like what Kurt Angle used to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly that move, and which was from Ken Shamrock. But remember, Ken Shamrock was in Pancrase, so he learned
Right.
from Funaki. Yeah, so that's Funaki said I got that from the UK. Yeah,
Oh wow.
so that's like a Wigan move, or the snake pit or whatever. I would assume. Yeah, isn't that
That's really
awesome?
because the toe hold goes. You can even go into like a calf crank with that. If you get your leg in and then
Yeah,
fold it up.
yeah, grapevine the leg, and yeah, for sure.
But one thing that I always loved about Japanese wrestling is like the UWF.
Oh, yeah.
And because me, like I said, I love just watching the mat-based wrestling.
Hmm.
I like regular pro wrestling too, but just being a martial artist and into grappling, I love the mat-based stuff. And I remember the matches that I saw of UWF. The two that are in my mind right now are Yoji Anjo,
Oh.
and there was, I think he was Russian, or he could have been some kind of Eastern European, Victor Zangief. And
Yeah.
he wore the wrestling,
Yes.
is it called lariat? And
The singlet, right?
Singlet.
Yeah.
And the mustache, and he was like an amateur wrestler in there, man. But he was doing cool little moves. I mean, he'd do some submissions like straight armbar, jujigatame, and different little moves. But I always love seeing that, man. And and right now we have Greto.
Yes. Yes. Great. Yeah.
With you see, there is some. I sent you one that like half of it was like
Yeah, that's
UWF
right.
style, and the other half was regular pro wrestling style.
Yes.
And I thought, dude, that is so cool. That was a long show. Wasn't it like 3 hours?
It was
Like
long. That? It was long, and it had, yeah, like you said, the first half of it had a lot of like shoot style. Some of them looked. Maybe it was like pure shoot. I don't know. No, it was shoot style, right? It wasn't real shoot fighting, but it was shoot style wrestling. Yeah.
It looked real close.
Oh yeah. Maybe there was at least one that looked. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But dude, I love that so much, and I love that Greto is doing that because, and okay, 3 hour show maybe. Because I know some other promotions they'll do like a 2-day show.
Okay.
Maybe they could do that and then like just kind of mix and matches, maybe.
Yeah.
And because man, 3 hours is a long time to sit for a whole bunch of matches. But I wish I would. And Josh Barnett, he does that too. I think he has a thing called Bloodsport.
Okay.
Which he did a match with Minoru Suzuki, which was probably like one of my most favorite wrestling matches I've ever seen. It was all like Shuto style, and they did a couple of spots where they did like suplexes.
Yeah.
I think they went for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Wow.
Amazing. It was a work of art, man. Suzuki Minoru, Pancrase,
yes,
legend. Guy. Josh Barnett, UFC fighter, catch wrestling legend. But I mean,
UFC champion.
yeah,
Yeah,
UFC champ,
yeah,
dude,
champ.
it was amazing,
Yeah,
amazing.
and
Um,
Pancrase champ too. Yeah,
oh, that's right.
yeah, and yeah, just legend in many ways too. Yeah.
So, so for me, I wish that we could see a little bit of more of a comeback, a little bit more into a little bit mainstream. Is it fair for me to say it's a little bit still kind of niche, the more shoot style wrestling?
Yeah, and sometimes when they do it in Japan, like people get mad. You know, they're like, "Do pro wrestling? What's this? If I want to watch this, I'll watch the UFC. Why are you guys doing this?" You know, they get angry. So, you know, I hope because like you, I think the variety is great. Like when I would watch the Pride or the K1 fights back in the day, and they would just throw in like a here's a like two kickboxers in kickboxing rules, you know, and then the
Yeah,
rest are all MMA fights, but one is like pure kickboxing or something like that. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the. Here's one that's it's going to be full contact karate, just thrown in. You know, I like the variety like that. So, yeah,
absolutely,
I'm with you.
absolutely. No, no, totally. And but yeah, I mean, so, like I said, I'm glad there's a promotion out there putting that on. But with regular pro wrestling, what are kind of your favorite promotions right now that you like to follow? Like, which one do you like the most?
Well, I do like Gleet, like you said, that's awesome right now. And then I was enjoying the Lucha Underground, which it's done now. They stopped, unfortunately. That was awesome. It was high production, and dude, the way the masks and the characters they were super cool. Yeah. Um,
Totally.
yeah, and then what you call it? I like old school stuff too. So I like watching some of the old school UWF and I mean you mentioned Yoji Anjo. You know he challenged Hickson back in the day.
Yeah,
Went
that's a famous match.
went to his dojo and apparently Hickson has the recording of the match. But what what a lot of people don't know is that Yoji Anjo, who never had success in MMA, he tried, but he didn't have like great success. That dude in the UWF, when they were inside the dojo, he was pretty much like the drill sergeant. So he was the mean drill sergeant that he was top dog in the dojo as far as the training went, and they called him uh, I believe it was like trumpet sergeant or something like that because he would get on top of the new people and stuff, and he would just dominate them so much that they would just start making like weird like trumpet like noises where
Oh,
they're in agony. So that's why he was called that. So he was a bad dude in the UWF.
jeez, Louise.
So they didn't just pick anybody.
Yeah, they made sure they got good training and good strict hard training.
Yeah.
But with Hickson,
Yeah.
I've heard him say that, like you said, he has the recording, but I think just because they kind of buried the hatchet afterwards, if I remember correctly, after that fight, I think Yoji Anjo wrote him like a letter, like apology, and recognized his skills and this and that. And I think out of respect, Hickson said he wouldn't like release the tape or something like that.
Or I don't know if there's a lawsuit or I don't know what, but yeah, yeah, maybe he's worried about get lawyers getting involved. I don't know, but
yeah, probably it right there. But
yeah.
So Lucha Underground, and what about Joshi Promotions, the female?
Oh man, before the Joshi, the women's wrestling. I also like. Have you heard of BML, Big Mouth Loud?
I haven't heard of them.
that was a little bit more indies, but it still looks good production. And like for example, they had Murakami Kazunari. He actually fought MMA a little bit, but he became a top heel in Japanese pro wrestling. And like Ensign Inoue, he's fought in it. In fact, excuse me, one of my favorite matches is Ensign versus Gerard Gordeau in BML. Yeah, where I sent you the clip, the
That's
link
right.
where Gordeau attacks his eyes and everything like that. Yeah, and I think Anson said for a second that he thought about going full blast on Gordeau for a second, but he said Gordeau was really cool, and yeah, so he didn't, but he said he did think about it in an interview I saw not too long ago. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But yeah, I do like watching the Joshi. I like old school, but no, some of the newer stuff's impressing me. I think you're a lot more familiar with the names and the
Yeah,
organizations, but like Tiger Queen.
yeah, yeah. The stuff you sent me of her, man, she is ace.
Yeah, the she's basically the female version of Sayama Satoru, the Tiger Mask, the original, the guy that the rival of Dynamite Kid. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, she had a match with oh goodness, her name escapes me. The girl with the red hair.
Okay.
Luna? Luna?
I don't remember. Was she the one that had that awesome Scorpion Deathlock?
Yes.
Yeah, the way she did that too, man. I was super impressed with. I've never seen a Scorpion Deathlock done like that, where you're really cranking down on that foot that's sticking out on the side, and she was cranking, pushing it down. I was like, wow, that's a cool way to do it.
Dude, and that one's good. The Joshi the organization that I like is Stardom, World Wondering Stardom in
Okay,
Japan.
okay, yeah.
Lot of good. They produced a lot of good talent there. I would probably say when it comes to female wrestling, they probably ace, man. Like they produce a lot of good talent.
How many organizations? Because there can't be that many.
I want to say in Japan, Stardom is the number one women's, but I think there's one called Ice Ribbon and Tokyo Joshi
Okay,
is
so
another big one.
wow.
So Stardom has produced Io Shirai, who's right now I think she's in NXT,
Okay,
and
so
yeah,
she's
she
over
who else
here in the U.S. Yeah.
over here, but dude, Dave Meltzer from the uh, um, he says she's probably like the number one female wrestler in the world. Io Shirai, because she could do everything:
Wow.
high flying, technical, striking. Um, Kairi Sane, the pirate, uh, the pirate queen, pirate princess. I can't talk. She was in WWE. Kairi Hojo, she's from Stardom. She just went back to Stardom.
Wow.
And the ace of Stardom, Iwatani Mayu,
Okay.
top talent. I mean, she's done work back in Ring of Honor back in the day, and really, really talented. I mean, those three were like some of the top aces of Stardom. But in the Joshi circuit. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really impressed with what the Joshi scene over there in Japan.
Amazing,
Like,
amazing stuff. Yeah.
really good talent.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, I can't even imagine the training they must go through. It's insane. Um,
Big time, big time. I mean, they got a good dojo system over there, man.
mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is, New Japan has a dojo here in California, I believe it is. And they set that up for recruiting and training foreign talent.
Yeah.
And I think they want. I want to say they already have a batch that they pulled through, or they're still kind of like still in the young lions phase, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So yeah, I do like the dojo system that some of these Japanese promotions got.
I you know change the subject a little bit, but like, have you seen? Do you know who uh, Matthias Hughes is,
That name rings a bell.
or Matthias Hughes? He was a '90s action movie star, so he did like a lot of like the low budget martial arts action flicks. You know, like
Mm,
the kind
Canon
like
film.
yeah, yeah, or Cannon or Don the Dragon Wilson. You know that kind of stuff. This guy, he basically said, I saw in an interview that he said that he seems like a really cool dude too, by the way, but he saw Dolph Lundgren in Rocky Four, and then he was like, hey, tall, blonde European dude, that's built, hey, that has muscles. Okay, so I'm gonna go to Hollywood and I'm gonna be the next Dolph. So he went, and then all of a sudden he said he was just surrounded by dudes that were, and Matthias I think is like 6'4", and then all of a sudden, bless you,
Excuse
all of a sudden he's surrounded by dudes that are 6'5", 6'6". He's like, where do these guys come from? They're all muscular. They're all like, model looking. And so all of a sudden in Hollywood, he felt like he was just a number. It's super ultra competitive. So I can imagine the same thing with professional wrestling. And pro wrestling today, I feel like, especially here in the US, don't they all kind of look like like models? They're all super muscular, they're super jacked, super lean, they look like Calvin Klein models and stuff.
me. Yeah,
you
that
know.
is true. Well, that's an interesting thing with pro wrestling because you have like the old school mentality of like the '80s, where it's like the big,
Tough
jacked up
guys.
dude, tough
Tough
guys.
tough guys that are scary. They were scary dudes that you didn't want to meet.
And so traditionally, you got the big Hulk Hogan's and Ultimate Warriors, and jack dudes. But then it's like in the modern era, you're starting to see different
Different
body types and
yeah.
sizes.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because it's like, well, not everybody's going to be a big monster.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And not everybody's going to be that Calvin Klein model and this and that. But if they have the talent and they can draw people in, well, they should be, have that opportunity. You know what I mean?
Well, in the U.S., I feel like it's very hard to break in unless you look like that. Whereas
Yeah.
if you wanted to, and you don't look like that, you have to do like indies here in the U.S. Whereas in Japan, I feel like you got a little bit more range. With the Japanese wrestling, a little bit more. I feel. I mean, you look at a lot of the top dudes. They kind of look like that too, but you look. You look at some of the other organizations and stuff. I feel like there's a little bit more range, and then you'll get guys that just they may not look like the most ripped dudes, or they're not super good looking. But
Yeah.
they're awesome
Well,
to watch.
like off the top of my head, I mean, from New Japan, Tetsuya Naito.
Mm.
Not super ripped or nothing like that. I mean, he's in shape and everything, but he's not like super jacked, ripped. Like probably like the real like the whole package, right? Nice body, talent, looks. I would say is Kota Ibushi.
Okay.
But again, some of the other guys, they don't have those looks or that body type too.
Right.
Even like I think you might be making his comeback already. Katsuyori Shibata.
Right.
Smaller guy, again ripped and all that, but he's not like super jacked or nothing,
Yeah.
So you are right. That's a good point. You do see a little bit more of a variety.
Yeah. I mean, I think in Japan, a lot of it also I think is connected to the martial arts over there. So you do have these guys that come from the martial arts background. Maybe more so in the indies, maybe. Yeah, in the indie circuit over there. But yeah, I've always enjoyed that variety.
And speaking of variety, one thing that I like too about Japan is the comedy matches.
The comedy man.
Uh, you, you see like I think DDT, that promotion. I think they do some comedy matches too, and I've seen like serious wrestlers doing them, like Kota Ibushi.
Yeah.
I think he did one years back where he wrestled like some kind of doll.
Right, right. It just
He's just
by
throwing it around.
himself. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you know what I mean. And I like that, dude. I like it. It's like, dude, it's just about having fun and entertainment. You know what I mean?
right.
Like, there's one guy. God, his name escapes me. I think it's like Kokumaru. He wears a mask that
Okay.
has like big ears and like a funny.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Kikomaru, something like that.
No, it's something Sun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has the big ears and everything, and yeah, yeah, it's a hilarious looking mask, is what it is. Yeah,
He's a little bit chubby, and then I think he normally wears like baseball type shirts, and he does comedy matches, and I've seen him, and it's hilarious, and it's all pro wrestling, but it's funny too, and it's really entertaining.
right, right. Yeah, I, dude, he went up against, or I thought it was some comedian wrestler, and then they put him up against someone like Fujiwara.
Oh, man.
It was like it was kind of like, oh man, this is a slaughter to the lamb slaughter right here. But there, he was able to make it entertaining, make it interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah,
So
no,
yeah, I mean that so just for me, like I said, I really like what the Japanese have done with pro wrestling,
mm,
and I just like I said, I enjoy it overall.
overall, man. So, do you have any aspirations, maybe?
I mean, I've always said this just with, since I love the martial arts and all that, and I think about realistically what would the ideal career for me be. I think it would be something like in a type of pro wrestling.
Mm,
Um, would be, and perhaps. I mean, I would love to do something like a Greto type shoot style matches.
right.
Um, that would be like an awesome experience, and I'm getting more into that world of grappling, and
Right. Right.
it's something that I like too. And I've been told too in the past too, like when I go to the gym, some of my buddies are like, "Well, you do kind of look like you could have been like a wrestler or something." So,
Awesome.
maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. So
You never know. Yeah, you
mm,
you never know for sure. So yeah, man, that would be great to see you, in some organization over there.
yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and yeah, you'll definitely with the shoot style matches that'll be right up your alley with all the submissions and stuff like that, and you can do the kickboxing and stuff too. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
The only thing, admittedly, that I have to get used to is all the bumps.
yeah,
I,
that
it's
could
like,
be a man. Some of those bumps that they take is just
it's like ugh.
unreal, dude. Unreal. It just, yeah.
But I've actually had a thought, and let me share this thought with you real quick.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
About, excuse me. I've always wanted this, like, because there's always a talk about in-ring psychology
Yeah.
and about making a match look believable. But then we do. There's all these power drivers and all these spiking people on their heads like DDTs and
Right.
power bombing somebody off the top rope,
Can't,
right?
I can't imagine. Yeah.
But we both know, having done a little bit of judo and grappling, that getting thrown just like a regular hip toss or what have you, that sucks.
Yeah.
And and as you get thrown like that out in the wooden floor or the concrete, man, you see it all the time in street fights. That's done.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there could be an evolution in pro wrestling where you don't the slams, whether it's a German suplex or what have you, have more of a damaging effect. and you see less big bumps. But then, like, what would be the filler in replay? Would it be more mat style shoot wrestling? Would it be more strikes? You know what I mean? Because sometimes I feel like in regular pro wrestling, it's a lot of going from a lot of different spots that involve a lot of like power moves, if you will.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking. We when you look at the video games like Street Fighter and stuff, though when you fight the matches, I mean, they're doing hundreds of punches and kicks on each other and all that, and you know, it's not very realistic. So then I'd rather play a video game where it's more like a few shots, and then you have that one move that could finish the opponent. Now you're going to fight more cautiously. And there was a game like that called Bushido Blade.
Bushido Blade, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like one strike, and you could finish the game with one hit right there, the opponent. And so I think that kind of reality, it would be nice to see that, maybe under special rules or something like that. And then, like you're saying, you could still keep what people are used to, professional wrestling. Maybe that's the main event or whatever. But in some of the other matches, you could have like, okay, this is a special rules match where, a pile driver, a single pile driver will finish.
Yeah.
But then what does that make the other matches look like? So this is to me where I kind of hear Jim Cornette's voice where he's saying stuff like, they did the Brawl for All back in the day.
Yeah.
Right? And he was saying that, like, when they were advertising it, they're like, this is the real deal. And then it's like, well, that hurts us, because what does that say about our other matches, that those are fake?
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think wrestlers take way too many bumps that are unnecessary, and they shorten their lives. I thought the whole point was to make it more entertaining, so they don't hurt themselves.
Yeah.
An MMA fighter would probably say, "I'd rather just fight the guy than take all those bumps, that could add up, and you'll be in a wheelchair."
No, and that's the thing too. It just takes one wrong bump. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I don't know how comfortable I would be if I were a pro wrestler. I don't know how comfortable I would be taking a pile driver. That's a tombstone. That's a lot of trust in somebody else who has their own injuries, and they have to lift you up and make sure they,
It is a lot of trust. Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, some stuff I'm like, ooh, I'd rather just fight the guy like that. The MMA fighter would say, I'd rather take those chances.
Right.
But I think there could be, and I'm nobody to, I'm not a pro wrestler, but I would like to see if somebody can come up with, like, I don't want to say a new style, but like a little bit more of an evolution of that, where you can make it entertainment, but then like maybe a little bit less risk to the wrestlers, but still have everything, the mat, the mat submission wrestling, the striking, the power moves, the in-ring psychology, the whole thing. I wonder what that would look like,
Or now that you're mentioning it, I mean, this is a completely new kind of way of thinking, so it's very interesting. I'm thinking, like, what if you kick it back old school, like back to the Gorgeous George type days, where they are just holding a headlock for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you wrestle that way, where there's a lot more mat work, right?
Yeah.
And then you do it that way, and then, if people don't like it, they don't like it, but you say this is old school style, throwback to those days, and then I think a certain portion, not every fan, but a certain portion of the fans would appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I think so. So, yeah, I think for right now, it's kind of like that comment where they go, why would I watch this when I could watch the UFC? That is one of the biggest biggest things, right?
right.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, because if it's just pure,
MMA style. Yeah.
yeah, it's just MMA or Madam Morris or what have you that they can watch. But I think when somebody crafty enough, experienced enough, they can add in. They know how to work that psychology. Hey, let's add in the striking, some good striking sequences, and run in the rope sequences. Add a little acrobatics
Right.
and a couple of big power spots. A couple of big suplex spots.
Yeah.
And mix it all in, man. I think that would be super interesting to see.
Very interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I'd like to see that for sure. So, yeah, we talked 40 minutes already. So I think this is a good spot here. Um, Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise. No,
And
absolutely. Thank you, man. Always good to talk, brother.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And thank you all for joining us on this a little bit different than normal talk. So that's it for now. Vampire over and out. Later, guys.
Peace out, guys. Thank you.